Well, Doug Ford is the brand new leader of Ontario's Progressive Conservative Party, although initially the results were disputed by Christine Elliott. Elliott finally conceded defeat yesterday and congratulated Doug Ford on his victory, releasing the statement saying, "After completing my review, I'm confident in the results. I extend my congratulations to Doug Ford on a hard-fought campaign." Elliott's also promising to run for the party in the provincial election. On Saturday, the party had declared Ford the winner by a margin of just 1%. Originally, there were concerns with irregularities. And joining us right now is political strategist Jim Warren with what this means for the PCs and their provincial election campaign. Jim, you were there on Saturday. Have you seen anything like it? Because all of us who were watching from the outside just, it seemed like chaos.
Tammy, it was unbelievable. And in a story you didn't think had any more chapters, it really was the final climax to a leadership campaign that people just shook their heads at. So we stood around for hours and hours and hours. It really struck me as somebody involved in politics. They just didn't come out and tell you. Nobody knew what was happening. Social media was lit up with stories about what might be happening. And so there was rumors, speculation. It was rampant. And at the end of the day, it actually was true. As a party divided, a lot of controversy, and an eventual winner that everybody was a little bit shocked by.
Yeah, definitely. And, Christine Elliott as well contesting the initial results. What do you think this says about the party? And are they going to be able to convince voters that they have it all together when there's this disarray happening, starting from Friday with the court injunction right through the convention?
Well, and that was, I think, the big conclusion. Christine Elliott was going to have to go to court. It would have taken weeks, if not months, to get a conclusion. And she knew that there's no way she could run and be premier if she did that process. So I think she folded the tent, has conceded to Doug Ford. It's going to be a real challenge. The plus for the Tories now is they have a candidate who's very media savvy, who is a populist, and who has a broad base of support in Toronto that we know from the last mayor's race. The bad news is he's a very polarizing figure. You either love Doug Ford or you hate Doug Ford. And so it'll be interesting because, like the premier, you either love or hate her. You have an opposition leader. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the campaign overall.
And Doug Ford right now is not a candidate in any riding in the upcoming provincial election, so he has to choose a riding. Any idea where that might be? Will he stick in Etobicoke, where the roots are pretty solid?
So the speculation is he will be in Etobicoke. He's going to focus, I think, a lot of his campaign on that broad-based 905, northern Toronto. That's the sort of heart of Ford Nation, if you want to call it, and that's where he hopes to try and win the next election. So the interesting thing is he will not get a seat in the legislature, so you'll still see Vic Fideli sort of trying to take on the premier in the legislature, while the new leader is focused to stay on the sidelines and sort of, I guess, focus on internal party matters.
Right, and trying to create this united party, or at least let people know in the public that they are coming together if they can do that in time for the June election.
And that's the biggest challenge for the PCs now is with this leadership, they're really at the 11th hour. They have to revamp their party platform. They have to revamp the way they get the candidates, everything from their posters to pictures. They got to go around now and get Doug Ford's picture. So they're really stuck behind the 8th ball. What's interesting, if you look at Doug Ford, is he ran in the mayor's race at the 11th hour. He ran in this leadership at the 11th hour. Now he's got to run to be premier at the 11th hour. So he does have experience in being at the last minute. Can you pull it off? The province, this is a huge province geographically, very diverse. That'll be the huge challenge for the Tories. Can they pull this off?
Now, with Ford running in this June election, and there has been a record low in terms of approval rates for a Kathleen Wynne, is this a situation where it could still be anyone but the Liberals? Or now with Ford in office being that polarizing, we really don't know?
Really, it's a good news, bad news scenario for Kathleen Wynne. So Kathleen, I think, now has the most formidable opposition in personality. He is larger than life, and he has such a media presence. But the picture, there's going to be no 50 Shades of Grey come June 7th. You either are going to want one side, which Kathleen Wynne is going to talk about new programs, new spending, and a very activist agenda, versus the complete and total contrast in Doug Ford, who's going to talk about cutting, going to talk about that sort of stop the gravy train, that he's going to find savings and balance a budget and probably cut your taxes. So the question will be very clear, and you'll have a clear choice on June 7th. Whether it should be so polarized, I don't know. Ontarians typically like a little bit more middle of the road, but you'll definitely have two definite contrasts.
Okay, and lastly, Christine Elliott conceding last night after meeting with Doug Ford face-to-face. What does that suggest for her coming up in the election?
The speculation, and she said last night she's going to run in the next election. position. I will be surprised if come June 7th her name is on a ballot. I think what she was doing is she was giving Doug what he needed in exchange for some backroom maneuvering for him to support some of her key supporters. Because often you'll support someone for leader to get a cabinet post. Now that Doug Ford is leader, she would have wanted to do something for her supporters, and that's what you would have saw in the back rooms last night.
All right, Jim, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
this
you, Tammy.
morning. Really appreciate it. We'll send it down to Dina next.